We're back in Luxor for 4 nights and staying at the Winter Palace, which over the years has had far more important guests than us, like Lord Carnarvon, Howard Carter's patron, Winston Churchill, King Farouk, whose whole family used it as a holiday retreat, and Agatha Christie, who wrote Death on the Nile here. Our room boy, Mohammed, another one, insisted on showing us around the royal suites, which looked superb, but with rather over-opulent furnishings. We, meanwhile, were very pleased with our own accommodation, especially as it was in the old palace main building, and not in the new pavilion building in the gardens. David thought that his surname Carter may have had something to do with it, being the same as Howard Carter. But actually we found out that Discover Egypt, the company through which we'd booked the holiday, had made sure that we were in the old palace.
Hello? Why not?
Apart from relaxing by the pool the next day and going to the Luxor Museum, we walked along to the temple to see it by night. We'd been around it during the day with the group from the Royal Viking, but this time we were on our own, in spite of the dozens of locals who wanted to be our guide for a price. It all looked quite different at night and rather magical. Being Friday, the Muslim day of prayer, and a holiday, lots of people were taking their families out into the huge square near the temple. Children were playing, stalls selling food and children's toys, and everyone, like us, was enjoying the cooler evening air. We'd fixed up an excursion today on the West Bank. We were the only two on the tour, so had the guide to ourselves. This was not the guide. This was yet another opportunist who, like the others, seemed to pop up out of nowhere to try and sell things as soon as they spot a tourist.
Carving. Yes. It is such a very deep carving, very sunken relief in the wall to make it difficult to anyone to carve the name of the mountain.
Ramesses III built this temple to copy one built by his father, Ramesses II, but he did it on a grander scale. It had huge gateways which once held vast, heavy wooden doors. In the first court, many of the wall reliefs and carvings still have some of their original colour and depict dancers and musicians.
Even if you saw it, you will not recognize it.
Hello.
Hello.
Local children always seem more fascinated by foreign tourists than with learning about their ancient history.
And you see the colorful one?
Yeah.
Of the key of life with the two hands?
Yeah.
All right? Come and please, there, please.
Okay. Yes, come. So, here this place, this is no column here.
The walls of this temple depict, among other things, religious festivals and sea battles, and in fine detail also show how the enemies of Ramesses II had their hands and testicles chopped off. The hands were taken so that it was easy later to count how many enemies had been captured. The testicles were removed so that the enemies could not reproduce. This was considered more compassionate than killing them. What the groups of schoolchildren would think of these illustrations, we can only imagine.
This is the oldest village in Egypt, made for just a temporary, for people to live inside it while they are building a temple or a tomb in ancient time. Because it's still in their mind, in ancient time, they believe that this mountain is mountain of death. So they don't live here, but they use it temporary only for staying inside it instead of going to the other side every day, West East Bank, and coming back and going back and going back. They take their family together and they stay here. It is about 195 house. 195 house. One of them, we succeeded to make a restoration for it, and it will look like that. It is in the left-hand side.
We were able to crawl and slide down into this small tomb. The vaulted ceiling was just over head height. We couldn't film or take photos, but bought a book of cards showing the spectacular wall paintings inside, which looked as if they'd just been finished yesterday.
City and the ministry as well, under the supervisor of Amenhotep III. It's all damaged. Let's do this chambers. That's to the left. Here's welcome.
And how long it is was
We do the feed or ceremony. Then the head of Ramesses II, it was in the top of this statues, the black granite stone. It is black granite stone. Black granite. The ibis writing the truth. And here's at the bottom you see the columns with the joints, the dovetail shape. You see this dovetail? And I think you saw it in Komombo.
yes.
Yeah. They fit on this shape, a piece of wood to use it as a joint to connect the two stones beside each other. Eagle and vulture, all of them used to be colorful and painted. It's going in, please.
This kid is working the ropes all the way along. With his Felucca moored just in front of the Winter Palace, its owner, Ragap, pestered us every time we went in and out to take a ride on the river. Eventually we gave in. He wanted 70 Egyptian pounds for an hour's trip. We offered him 80 for 2 hours, and he agreed. That's less than £10 sterling. A Felucca doesn't have an engine as backup. Well, not this one anyway. So, with no wind, we were at the mercy of the current for a while as we drifted downriver in the wonderfully spelled Mary Rose, with Ragap, crew member Mohammed, yet another one, and Ragap's 10-year-old half-brother Kedari.
You can talk to me as well because it'll all be recorded.
Nice smile, nice photo. Nice to meet you.
At least our drifting gave us a different view of the Luxor temple, even if we were going the wrong way. We weren't the only boat floundering in the middle of the River Nile, so we waited until help arrived, summoned by Ragap on his mobile phone, and then were towed upstream again in convoy. It took us nearly an hour by the time we'd arrived back in front of the Winter Palace. During that time, a dinghy appeared alongside with 3 policemen in it. They demanded to see Ragap's ID and river licence, and having done that, they demanded 10 Egyptian pounds or threatened to cause trouble. He said it was quite a regular occurrence.
Smiling God, لا تضحك لا تضحك. Like this, you know, if you take for very strong.
Yeah, it's heavy rain. Yeah. And in between,
We were headed to Banana Island, which wasn't actually very far away. Dusk was falling as we arrived, and we were told that we'd each have to pay 5 Egyptian pounds to a large guy sitting on a chair at the top of the slope. It was probably a rip-off, but we paid it.
خلي بالك دي ساقية ها old one يعني ساقية دوارة يعني ساقية دوارة دنيا.
Along with other tourists who were there, we saw the remains of an old mill and walked through the banana plantation to an old well in which we were told there were crocodiles. One small, pathetic creature came to the surface after being poked with a stick, and then began the evening call to prayer coming from all of Luxor's mosques. There was a field of cotton nearby, and we were invited to sit down in a sort of cafe area and eat bananas. Well, firstly, it would have cost us if we'd sat down, but secondly, with all the mosquitoes around, we didn't want to stop at all. With no wind, we thought we'd be fine because the current would easily carry us back downstream, but we seemed to cross the river very slowly, and, like others, they had to row the last 100 yards or so to reach the right spot in front of the Winter Palace. We were to be picked up at 2 o'clock today to be taken to the airport, so we had plenty of time this morning to pack and then spend a couple of hours by the hotel pool. There was a couple there who were on the Royal Viking with us the week before, but we didn't remember them at all. And once on the plane, we found that we had the same 2 seats as we did when flying out, and with an empty one between them, we thought we'd have plenty of room. But a loud-mouthed nerd on the plane asked to upgrade. He was allowed to pay extra and then plonked himself with us. He was full of himself, thought he knew everything about Egypt and how the trip should be organised. It was with great glee that I heard him talk several times about Abu Simnel instead of Abu Simbel. Perhaps he was confused because Easter was on the way, but I decided I wasn't going to correct him. I'd just let him go on being a prat.